15 years ago this week, on May 23rd, 1999, it was the day that Owen Hart passed away, age 34, at the Over the Edge pay-per-view from Kemper Arena in Kansas City, Missouri. Jim Ross just did an interview with Sam Roberts. It's really, really good, long video interview in studio. If you YouTube it, you'll find it. And Jim Ross shared the same story with Sam Roberts that he did at the one-man show that I went to when JR was in New York back in the beginning of March. And I had never heard him tell this story before, but he told it again here, and it just gives me shivers when I hear it. When the accident happened, Owen fell. He basically died. He basically died in the ring. I don't think he was alive much longer after the initial fall. And everyone's in a panic. Nobody knows what's happening and what's going on. It's kind of a crazy scene, but the show goes on. And Jim Ross has to make the announcement after one of the matches that Owen Hart has died. And he told the story here that they were in his ear. Kevin Dunn was in the truck. He's in JR's ear saying, JR, we're going to come back to you for an on-camera, and we need you to give an update on Owen's condition. And Jim Ross says, well, Kevin Dunn must have thought I knew, but nobody told me. He kind of hit the switch to talk back to Kevin Dunn and said, Kevin, I don't know what the update is on Owen. And Kevin Dunn just tells him, JR, Owen's dead. And you're on in 10, 9, 8, and he just counted him down. Now imagine if you're Jim Ross sitting there, and you're right in the middle of all this. You didn't actually see Owen fall, but he did say that he was looking down, but in his peripheral vision he could see Owen, once he was down low enough, fall and hit the ring post. So I guess maybe he kind of did see Owen fall. But here's this guy who's the head of talent relations as well, so he deals with all these guys. He's got a relationship with Owen Hart like he does everybody else on the roster. He's just told that the guy is dead, and you've got to go tell an audience of millions what just happened. And he's counting you down in your ear. Like, I can't even imagine what that must feel like. But he did it, and it's one of the most surreal moments that I've ever seen on a wrestling show ever. I mean, I don't want to speak for everybody. I remember where I was when that show happened. I was at a friend's house watching the pay-per-view, and when it happened, they wouldn't show it on camera. They didn't want to sensationalize it. Owen fell when they were dark in the arena showing a video package on TV. So thank God they didn't, air it live on pay-per-view. We didn't see him plummet to his death. When they came back, though, they had crowd shots. They would not show what was going on in the ring. Jim Ross was describing to us what was going on, but they wouldn't show us. And I remember sitting there talking to my friend because, we didn't really know how serious the situation was. And I don't want to say that we were joking about it. We were kind of joking about what the ramifications would be. Like, oh my God, can you imagine, if he actually died? We didn't actually think he would. We thought maybe he broke his arm or he broke, something bad happened to the guy, obviously. But oh boy, this is going to be bad news for WWE, a lawsuit and whatever. And when they came back later on and they actually made the announcement that he died, I just remember sitting there with my friend and we were just stunned. We didn't actually think that would happen. We were stunned. And we watched the rest of the show because the pay-per-view had, I think, 2 matches left. After they made the announcement, there were 2 matches left, the main event matches. Triple H against The Rock and Stone Cold against The Undertaker. So, that's the Attitude Era in a nutshell right there. Those are the 2 matches that were left in the show. And I don't even remember, I know who won the matches, but I don't really remember much. You're just kind of in a fog. You can't believe what you just heard. And I remember I got the tape. He taped it on VHS, gave me the tape. I was going to take the tape home to show it to my brother, and I just remember walking in the house, and I was actually crying. I started crying because it's I just met Owen the year before, in my first Raw show ever. They brought him into our luxury box. I had won tickets from a radio station, so we had some personal one-on-one time with these guys. That was the first time I ever met Owen, and he was there with Mick Foley and Mark Henry. I think Luna was there. Nice guy, really, really nice guy. And I'm pretty sure I've shared this story before, but one of the things I'll never forget is when they're leaving the luxury box. Because what they did back then, I don't think they do it anymore. But they would take the guys from box to box to box to have some personal time and sign autographs. This was in the hour before the show started. So there were dark matches going on, or maybe they were taping for Shotgun or something. So everybody files out of the luxury box, and Owen was the one guy who, he was the last one out, and right before he left the luxury box, everyone is buzzing. Like, they're not even paying attention to these guys anymore. We're just like, wow, that was awesome, that was so cool. And Owen turns around, nobody's paying attention, and he just goes, everybody got a picture, everybody got an autograph, anybody want, like, and I'm watching him, and I'm all nervous, you know, because I want to say, yeah, I wouldn't mind getting a photo with the guy. But I was so nervous, my friend's egging me on. I'm like, oh, I raised my hand. I'm like, yeah, I'd love to get a photo. And he was like, cool, no problem. He comes over. And, you know, in my little collection here, I'll always have that photo of me, Owen Hart, and my friend. And that was actually the photo I used. I did a write-up in a local newspaper that I was doing a wrestling column for at the time. And I did a whole column on Owen Hart right after he died. And I used that picture in the paper. And that's one of the coolest things. That's like one of the coolest mementos I have. I didn't know the guy personally, but I mean, that's a traumatic thing to be through. I can't even imagine what his family must have gone through. I can't imagine what the wrestlers in the back must have been going through. Those guys knew Owen a hell of a lot better than any fan did. You know, they traveled with him. They knew the family in some cases. Some of them were friends with him. Jeff Jarrett was like tight. You know, him and Owen were best friends. They were tag team partners at the time. And you could tell from Jarrett's reaction on that tribute show the next night how torn up inside he was. And Deborah and everybody. So it's one of those awful memories that I can remember where I was, how I reacted, and when I got home, it was all over the news. All the local news stations in New York led with it. Wrestler falls to his death on pay-per-view in a stunt gone wrong. And, you know, all the stuff that came from that, obviously. The family filed a lawsuit against WWE, which was settled out of court for $18 million. And then I think WWE sued the maker of the harness that snapped, which caused Owen to fall. And it's timely that this anniversary comes up now because this past week WWE sent out a survey to some fans asking them about their level of interest in some possible new DVD releases. And one of those ideas is for a series called WWE Reveals, which reads like an investigative, documentary type deal. And one of the subjects listed was Owen Hart's demise. And they had some others in there like the XFL, the curtain call, John Stossel getting slapped by Dr. Death, David Schultz. And I didn't take the survey myself, so I'm going off what other people have said, but to list it as Owen Hart's demise, if that's how it was worded, makes me very queasy. I think we're long overdue for a proper Owen Hart release, covering his career, talking about what happened that night at the pay-per-view. But with that title, it sounds to me like they want to know if people are willing to spend money on a DVD that focuses on the man's death. And that's just wrong, especially if they're making money off it. It's not like they're going to be objective about the subject, You really think they're going to have guys on there talking about how nervous Owen was and how he didn't want to do it and was basically talked into doing it or was worried he might lose his job if he said no. These things have been said before by Owen's wife, by Brett, I think even by some other people. So this is not just conjecture here. That's how Owen felt. He wasn't comfortable doing it, but he did it because he was worried that if he said no to the boss, you might lose your job. It's not like Owen was a headline guy at the time. He was in the mid-card, and, maybe he was legitimately that concerned. I can't imagine that had he said no to the stunt for fear of his safety, they would have fired him. But, you don't know what people are thinking in that position. There's a lot of pressure on you in a position like that. You think they're actually going to talk about that if they do a DVD release like this? Which almost paints them out as the reason why Owen died? You think they're actually going to be that honest about it? Of course not. Or maybe they'll just lay all the blame on Vince Russo for it being his idea, and they'll let him take all the heat. I don't need to rehash all of that stuff. And they're not going to be honest about it, so I think this one is probably better off left alone. Something on the guy's career that includes the stuff on his death is fine, but we don't need a DVD that focuses on only that and exploits it for profit. You're stirring up a hornet's nest for no good reason. Nothing good can come from that.